Ready for a deep dive?
Always.
This time, we're ditching the usual research pile.
Oh,
Yeah, and instead, we're going to dig into this really cool newsletter.
okay.
It's called Love to Visit Italy.
Sounds right up our alley.
It is, and they have this whole section about exploring Milan on foot.
Milan. On foot.
Right. You wouldn't think of it.
Not really. More like high fashion. Right.
Exactly, and like bustling energy.
Yeah.
But apparently there's been a real push for pedestrianization lately.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like rediscovering the city's.
Hidden walkways.
Yeah, and like all those charming little corners you miss when you're...
Zipping around in a car.
Exactly.
Like that.
And the newsletter mentions these urban trekking groups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, led by locals, and they're like passionate about showing people these...
Paths less traveled, as they say.
Exactly. So what's the appeal? Why explore a city like Milan on foot?
Well, when you walk, your senses are just like more heightened.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You're not just whizzing by in a car
Right.
or a bus. You notice all the details, the textures, the sounds.
It's like you slow down
Yes.
and you match the rhythm.
Precisely. And that's where this concept of psychogeography comes in.
Oh, yeah, the newsletter mentioned that.
Yeah. They talk about this crime novelist, Gianni Biondio,
Okay.
and he wrote a book about Milan's urban trails.
Hmm.
And this whole idea of psychogeography, it's like how our surroundings,
The streets, the buildings.
yeah, even those hidden alleyways.
They influence us.
They do, our thoughts, our feelings.
Their creativity, even.
It's fascinating.
So for this guy, walking through Milan is like
More than exercise.
way more. It's like,
Uncovering stories, the cities whispering them.
that's beautiful.
It is. And it makes him a better storyteller, a keener observer.
That's so cool. Like anyone can do that, right? We can
Right.
all become these like,
Urban explorers
yes,
and storytellers
just by paying attention
to the details.
as we walk. Love it.
It's about shifting your perspective,
Yeah.
engaging with your surroundings.
More mindfully.
Yeah. And who
Yeah.
knows?
We'll find.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe some hidden gems, unexpected stories.
So this whole walkability thing in Milan,
It's more than just like making it pedestrian friendly.
it's creating space for those deeper experiences.
Yes. It's inviting people to be part of the city's story,
Active participants.
not just, passing through.
I like that.
Me too.
Speaking of stories, let's jump into some of these around the web pieces from the newsletter.
Oh, yeah. Those are fun.
They're like little snapshots.
Of Italian life.
And culture.
For sure.
Okay, so there's this one about the mystery surrounding the origins of tortellini pasta.
Oh, yeah. It is fascinating, right? Like this simple pasta dish and all this debate.
I know, so many stories.
Right. Some say Bologna, others Modena, and the stories of its creation.
They're pretty colorful.
They are. It says something about Italian culture, don't you think?
How so?
That regional pride,
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's in their food, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Italy, it's not one big thing.
Right.
It's like all these different regions.
Woven together.
Exactly. With their own flavors and traditions.
And discovering those differences.
It's part of the joy of exploring.
Especially on foot, right? Like, imagine...
Stumbling on a tiny trattoria.
Yes. Tucked away.
And you get to savor a dish.
Perfected over generations.
It really is like each bite tells a story.
Connects you to the place.
And the people.
Speaking of stories, there was another one in the around the web section.
Which one?
The Frasassi Caves.
Oh, right. The underground cathedrals.
They're seeing a lot more visitors these days.
They are. I wonder, with the Jubilee year coming up.
You think people are looking for something like...
A different kind of experience?
Yeah, like a deeper connection.
Maybe even a spiritual one.
It ties into that idea of exploring as a pilgrimage almost.
Right. It's not just about checking things off a list.
It's a journey.
Inward and outward.
So even visiting a cave
becomes something bigger.
I like that.
Me too.
Okay. And speaking of powerful experiences...
Oh, you're talking about the grappa piece.
You know it. This fiery Italian spirit...
It's having a moment, isn't it?
It sounds like it. It used to be seen as...
rough, rustic.
But now...
It's getting recognized for its complexity.
Yes, subtle flavors.
There's a new generation of distillers.
Elevating it.
To an art form.
Just like Italy itself, right? Always evolving.
But rooted in tradition.
And wouldn't you say that understanding something like grappa, its history?
It adds another layer to the story of a place.
For sure. It's like appreciating the craftsmanship.
The passion that goes into it.
Creating something unique.
And that enriches your experience.
Right. Just like how exploring Roman concrete connects us to the past.
It's amazing
The ingenuity.
how those structures have stood the test of time.
They've really shaped Italy's landscape.
Speaking of landscapes, what about the Veneto region?
Oh, yeah. Venice, of course.
But it's more than that.
The newsletter encourages venturing out
Beyond the canals.
into the countryside.
It's a perfect example of why we should go off the beaten path.
Right. And explore on foot.
Imagine wandering through vineyards,
Discovering ancient villages.
soaking it all in,
It's about slowing down.
engaging with the landscape.
And the people.
And when you do that,
What
you
happens?
start to notice the stories.
In the fabric of the place.
The cobblestones, the buildings, the laughter from a cafe,
Whispering tales.
of lives lived.
Traditions passed down.
And don't you think those stories become more vivid?
When you experience them on foot.
Absolutely. You step right into the story.
I love that.
Me too. And speaking of stories,
Oh,
we can't forget about the culinary ones.
true.
The newsletter had a whole section on the must-eat foods in Milan.
Oh, yeah. Milan is a food lover's paradise.
Isn't it? Creamy risotto.
The panettone.
There's something for everyone.
And what better way to find those culinary delights?
Than by wandering through those vibrant neighborhoods.
And seeking out those hidden gems.
Exactly.
It's funny, right? How food just tastes better after a walk.
I know what you mean.
Like you've earned it or something.
You've explored the city, worked up an appetite.
Exactly. And speaking of visual delights,
Oh, did you see that drone shot?
in the newsletter.
Yeah, of Polignano a Mare.
Oh my gosh, stunning. That turquoise water,
And those cliffs.
breathtaking.
It just makes you realize, even with all the tech we have,
You can't beat actually being there.
nope, no substitute for experiencing it firsthand.
Like, it's the difference between reading a recipe and actually eating, right?
Exactly.
Oh, and they even included a link to a 4K walking tour of Milan.
Fancy.
I bet it's still not the same, though.
Not even close.
Being there, feeling the cobblestones,
Hearing the city around you.
totally different.
You know, it makes me think about Gianni Biondio again.
The crime novelist.
The one who sees Milan through that psychogeography lens.
Right. Do you think, like, anyone could become a better storyteller that way?
By exploring on foot.
Yeah, and observing all the little details.
Like BND.
It's like training your mind to see things differently.
To notice those clues that tell a story.
And that's not just in Milan, right?
Nope, think about it. Your own city? Or somewhere you've always wanted to go.
There are hidden stories everywhere.
Just waiting to be discovered.
We can all be urban explorers.
Uncover those secrets that make each city unique.
I love that. Well, that's our deep dive into Milan.
Safe travels, everyone.
And until next time, keep exploring.